Stop moving. Yeah. Thank you. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for Shafter City Council Tuesday, May 17, 2022. Roll call. All members of council present with the exception of Councilmember Lopez, and he's excused. Everyone will stand. I'll lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilmember Espinoza in invocation. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lord, for this day that you've given us. Thank you for the blessings and for those that are unseen. Be with us tonight. Bless our efforts. Continue to bless the city. We ask this through Jesus Christ, and everyone says,
Amen. Approval of agenda.
No changes. Very good. I'll make a motion to approve agenda as read.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gibbons, seconded by Councilmember Espinoza to approve the agenda.
Councilmember Espinoza,
Yes.
Alvarado,
Yes.
Givens,
Yes.
and Proud.
Yes. Presentations. This is always a fun one. Presentations is tonight Distinguished Young Women for Shafter program, and we have some certificates. So I'm going to ask all of you to come forward as I come down there and we'll have fun. Do I need to use this? Yeah, just stand right here in the side, because they're going to take our picture.
The
You just
poll
have to
doesn't help
smile.
the picture, sorry.
We'll take a group picture at the end.
Yes, ma'am. As you know, Distinguished Young Women's Program has been in Shafter for many, many years, and I don't think I've ever missed a program. It's always exciting to see the commitment that you put into it, as well as what you do for your school and the leadership for your citizens in this community. So congratulations to all of you, and enjoy your whole year with it. So the first one I'm going to do is for Faith. You ready? Good. Faith Basaldua. Well, then you have to spell it, so I know what you're saying. Yes, that's right. Okay, so you're the 2022 Distinguished Young Women of Shafter. And whereas the Distinguished Young Women Program, formerly the Junior Miss Program, provides young women who have distinguished themselves at school and in their community the opportunity to compete for college scholarships at a local, regional, state, and national level. And whereas Faith was selected as the 2022 Distinguished Young Woman of Shafter and earned the special awards for self-expression and spirit of distinguished young women. And whereas the Shafter City Council takes pride in the accomplishments of young leaders and encourages others to establish and pursue their dreams and desires to pay special tribute to Miss Azaldua. I got it done. Yeah. For her success and the example that she has set for her willingness to try. Now, therefore, I be resolved that the City Council, City of Shafter, hereby encourage all citizens of Shafter to join together to congratulate and extend a special tribute to Faith during her reign in the Distinguished Young Women of the Shafter program, passed and adopted this day. So congratulations to you. Normally, we always have a key to the city, but guess what? It didn't arrive in time. So we're going to still get it for you. I mean, you're still going to have it. It'll open lots of doors for you, and you get to keep it for years. It's pretty cool.
We don't even have a key to the city.
You don't?
No.
Oh, we'll have to take care of that one. Okay. Okay, the next one is for Julie Beth Diaz. And you have a certificate of recognition from the City Council of City of Shafter, hereby recognizes the Distinguished Young Woman of Shafter first alternate. So congratulations to you. Yeah. Next one is Cassandra Gutierrez. Cassandra, you have the same recognition for Distinguished Young Women and the Scholarship Award and the Spirit of BYW. So congratulations. always heard some good things about this. You were a small group, but yet you had a lot of fun and you really enjoyed each other. And I think that says a lot for all of you. Good stuff. We have a certificate of recognition for Laura Neufeld. Yeah. And Laura's recipient of the Sound Award. You played piano, right?
I sang a song.
You sang a song. Who played the piano? No one did? What? No one did? Oh, you could have done the piano and song. That would have been super good.
piano.
Oh, my gosh. Should have trained her, huh? I know it. Congratulations.
Thank
Anna.
you.
Good Laura. I mean, I saw you in the play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Keep it up too. It's fun. Jessica Moreno Bravo? Yes. And you're the Distinguished Young Woman of Shafter recipient for the Fitness Award. You were my choice too. I thought you were cool. Anybody that can do all that jumping around is super. All right. You want us up on the platform? Okay. Yeah, come on. Have you seen?
Maybe if we have three of you come down to the bottom. Yeah. That'll work. Yeah, three. Yeah, there we go. Windows ladies, there we go. There we go. Yeah, step up. Yeah, there we go. This looks.
You know, I'd also like to say thank you to your committee as well as the parents. There's so much for everybody, all. It says a lot. It says a lot for the family.
Well, we thank the city for your support every year, and especially the last couple of years, it looked a little bit different, but we were really proud that we could keep the program going throughout every circumstance. And thank you to Councilmember Givens. He plays an integral role in putting on the program at the Ford Theater, so it was great. So thank you for your support. Thank you so much.
They were a fun group to work with, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I kept hearing too. It was nice. You must have turned it off.
I did.
Okay. Public comment time. If anyone in the audience cares to address the group may come forward at this time. Public comment time is now open. Right there at the microphone. Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Jamie Swatella and I work for Air Energy. I've been with the company for the last 4 years. However, I'm stepping into a new role, which is why I'm here tonight. I am the new External Affairs representative for Kern County, and I will be not only representing the County of Kern, but also more active here in the community of Shafter. Now, why am I excited to be back in Shafter? And I say be back because when I was growing up, my mom worked for the high school in transportation. And so I spent many Friday nights at the football field eating delicious tri-tip sandwiches, as well as packing holiday gifts for students on her bus route. So this is somewhat of a homecoming, I would say, which is exciting for me because I absolutely love it out here and I live not too far from the city limits. So I'm really excited to be here. So I said I worked for Air Energy, which is one of the top oil and gas producers in the state of California. And we produce 25% of California's energy needs, which is quite a bit. And we're really not only excited for what we do, but I'm excited to not only represent 1,100 employees, but a company that absolutely loves this community and the state as a whole. So I wanted to formally introduce myself as the new External Affairs Representative and just say hello. I will be sending an email to each and every one of you looking to connect and share more about not only our business, as we are a neighbor to the city of Shafter, but many of our employees live here, as well as dine here frequently, whether it be during lunchtime or dinner time or stop for gas. So not only is this community important to our employees, but it's important to me as well. And I'm excited to be more involved. And if there's any time that you have a question about the oil and gas industry, Era Energy's operations or our business or culture, and or looking for opportunities for us to support the community in volunteer ways, financial ways, and or just support, please let me know. And I'm happy to connect with you and or work with you on special projects. So thank you so much for the time this evening. And it's a pleasure to meet each and every one of you. So thank you.
Do we have her background, her phone numbers and contact?
Yeah, and I have a card. May I approach the board with my card? Is that okay? I can
Yep,
go
pass
back.
them through her, yeah.
Okay.
That's good. Well, I hope you enjoyed our introduction with our young ladies tonight.
I did. I actually am a former Miss California, so I love seeing women
Oh, nice.
who have courage to stand up on stage
That's right.
and share their talents with the world and love communities and give back in really nice ways. So it was a pleasure to
Right.
see.
So were you a candidate from Bakersfield?
I was.
Oh,
Yes. And when I won Miss California, I was actually in Long Beach at the time. So, and I moved back home a couple of years
all
ago.
right.
Yeah,
I love the program.
me too. It is. And those women are so smart throughout the years and they've done tremendous things throughout the community and have moved on to other things. And just seeing a lot
That's
of them
right.
grow up has been awesome. So
Right.
it was good to see the new class.
Yes, very good. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, anyone else in the audience that cares to address the council? I know we have some that we received online and our clerk will read off those.
Okay, this one was received by email and it reads, can staff give an update on 1, Brown and Bryant? Can you give an overview or a synopsis of the cleanup project? And I'm looking specifically for the results of the cleanup up to now. How much of the waste has been extracted from the ground and what is continued plan to assure that the chemicals don't seep into our water tables? Number 2, SB 1000. Where are we on SB 1000 process? Why is it at a standstill? When is the next public meeting? Many residents have grave concerns with the lack of progress and lack of meaningful community engagement within this last year. Number 3, please give an update as to the North Shafter curbs and gutters and drain system. When are we going to see results? I understand the council and or staff does not have to respond during public comment time, so please do so under an appropriate report or given agenda item if appropriate. Thank you. Gary Rodriguez, lifelong Shafter resident.
Did you have another one?
No.
Okay. So hearing none, then we'll close the public hearing at this time, or the public comment at this time. Council announcements and reports. Pete?
On Thursday, May 5th, I zoomed in on the Citizens Charter Advisory Committee kickoff meeting. And I listened to the process that's going to take place. And then I went ahead and listened in on the second one, which was on May 9th. I zoomed in on the second meeting, and what they're doing is they're going over the city charter, and they're going to look at and see if they can come up with any new ideas to be able to upgrade it. And I think it's very important because the city charter is only looked at once every 10 years. So I'd like to thank the city manager and the city attorney and the city clerk for keeping those meetings rolling. And it's very nice. If you'd like to take the time to find out a little bit more, it's a great time to get some information. And then on Friday the 6th, I attended the Bakersfield College Scholar and Donor Social. And they were recognizing some students for their scholar accomplishments and also recognizing some donors to the program. And that was a neat event. And I'd like to see more things like that going on. And that about wraps up what I've done.
Ken?
Nothing at this time.
Gilbert?
I have nothing to report at this time. Thank you.
I have a couple other things. I have been attending the city charter meetings, the kickoff, as well as the next meeting when they got into the articles 1, 2, 3, and 4, which, as Pete says, is very informative and kind of refreshes and brings you all up to date as to how we govern our own city and our progress forward, as well as for the future plans. Also at the Bakersfield College's Scholarship and Donor Program, Chapter was invited because we recognize many of our students out here already as donors for these students. A good opportunity for our kids to get started. The one that was the biggest surprise at the event was from Bakersfield College, and he started as a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Very interesting. He's been in college already for 2 years. Pretty young to be at that level, and Dad was with him. He was probably the most dressed up. He had a tie and a vest and the whole works, but presented himself very well. And so he definitely will have a good background to keep moving forward. It'd be interesting to watch how he progresses. And it was really very exciting for us to be there. It was our first endeavor to see, and our city manager was there also. And it was exciting, but it was new for Bakersfield College to do this recognition the way that they did. And I expect next year we will shine even more and probably have some of our own students that'll show up over there and kind of feel good and feel that they can brag about Shafter and the fact that we are recognizing them and giving them donations. The task force meeting was held this last week on Wednesday, and it was the usual progress. Debbie was leading the meeting, and I didn't take notes because I didn't have my pen with me, if you can believe it. Debbie, I don't know. Well, I know what the main thing was. The main thing that I got out of it was the fact that we have school reps there. We have representatives that represent a whole lot of different areas, whether you're a school, church, organizations, or just community people. And the school had really talked about students and some of the disruptions and the issues that they're having around the schools as well as in the community, and what can we all do. And I think it's pretty obvious that we are aware of it, and we're all working together, hoping that we can help everybody else out and yet have a good face to continue on, so that we don't have any biggest issues coming from these young people that are just 13 or 14 years old, because their opportunities are greater than ever. And I think if we show them how important they are, that we can win them over and begin to grow in their own life. Sports is a big deal for Shafter, and there is a big participation with families in sports. And we're fortunate that Shafter has that. Then also I did go, and Pete, you forgot this one, we did go to the library or the Learning Center and listen to Stan Wilson. Stan is such a wealth of knowledge about the history of Shafter, as well as the family that started here so many years ago. And he told about the potato capital of the world. And I told him after the meeting that we really got to go back, and Debbie, you're gonna like this one, go back and redo the centennial that we had in 2013, because we really didn't feature as much as we should have on the potato capital of the world. Because he started back in 1912, early 1900s, with people that were starting to come to this area. And he mentions a farmer who had 80 acres. Well, then it just kind of blew up from there. And he progressed through the years and told about how others got involved and how the potatoes really scored well for, and it was long whites, which I didn't live here then, but let me tell you, we got long white potatoes. And we all knew where they came from, and they sent them all over the states. I mean, Shafter was really on the map. And yet today we have no potatoes, no potatoes at all. It's gone to, well, it just branched out and other states picked them up, and you didn't have to go through all the process of getting those potatoes grown here as well as shipped out fresh to all these other places. But a really great time for Shafter, put us on the map for sure. So that one was a fun one. And I know you, yeah, I got a chance to tell Pete at the last minute. So he did show up over there and it was good. It was really good. Full house. I mean, a lot of people came and they really got a lot out of the presentation. And if you have any groups, Stan likes to share information to others. And so feel free to invite him. Jamie, and even, I mean, he would tell groups of people, whether you go to him or he goes to you. It's just, I mean, he's always a good presenter and he has all kinds of things about history. We're fortunate. Okay, so I don't have anything else. And the consent calendar is the next item. So I'm going to brief you briefly on some of our items. We have 12, I believe, this time. Yes. So we have approval of checks, payroll minutes for April the 27th and May the 3rd. Number 4 item is to accept the public improvements for track 7314, which authorizes the release of performance bond securities of 25% of the original value. And this is all at Lennar. Number 5 is to accept and approve an amended proposal submitted by SITREP Security Solutions for park restroom patrol services, which we've had in the past, and it's proven very successful that they watch every evening here in the community. Number 6 item is to adopt resolution number 2863, which is authorizing the city manager supplemental agreement for federal aid project, and it has to do with Santa Fe between Los Angeles and Galpin for shoulder improvements. Number 7 is to authorize the release for bidding purposes for the 2022 street improvements at East Euclid between Nichols Street and James Street. Number 8 is to approve a new 3-year small government enterprise agreement with Environmental Systems Research on behalf of the city of Shafter. And that takes care of our, help me out.
Or GIS.
GIS, that's right. That's right. That's our information system. Number 9 is to ratify a professional service agreement with Kearney's Business Technology Center in the amount of $24,000 for technical IT support. Because we have a staff member that will on leave for a while. Number 10 is to ratify and adopt the side letter agreement with service employees, SEIU, agreeing to modify certain provisions of the MOU approved by the council on December the 14th. And we will reclassify from laborers and maintenance workers to service crew members. And we'll also authorize a 12% equity pay adjustment for the amended classifications retroactive to January 1st, 2022. Number 11 is to adopt the City of Shafter's employee biweekly pay schedule effective January 1st, 2022. And number 12 is to adopt resolution number 2864 of the Shafter declaring intentions to form landscaping and lighting district. And that's for the new track going in at Los Angeles, East Ash, and east of Mantle, 107 lots. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we
Make-
can entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve consent calendar as read.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gibbons, seconded by Councilmember Espinoza to accept the consent calendar.
Councilmember Espinoza,
Yes.
Alvarado,
Yes.
Givens,
Yes.
and Prout.
Yes. Okay, moving on, public hearings. The first item is update of draft 2022 Regional Transportation Plan, Sustainable Community Strategy, draft 2023 Federal Transportation Improvement Program, and corresponding draft air quality conformity analysis, and the draft environmental impact report.
Certainly, Mayor and Council, with us tonight, we have Rob Ball with the Kern County Council of Governments.
making the presentation. This was done in partnership with Kearney, in which they requested that we would be one of the cities in the county to host this public hearing as part of their outreach. And so that's why you see it on our agenda. And with that, Ron.
Thank
Welcome.
you, Mayor and council members. It's always a great honor to get up here to Shafter and just enjoy and see the exciting things that are going on with the recognition that you guys just gave out to the young women here. And so wanted to just let you know that this,
Real quick, let's make sure your microphone is on. Okay.
is it okay?
Just wanted to make sure.
I'll get closer.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. This is somewhat of a routine process. Every 4 years, Kern Council of Governments, which is the regional transportation planning agency for Kern County, updates its long-range transportation plan. And the most important piece of this that you'll probably want to go over is actually in the back of the packet. And it's a list of the 24-year list of projects for the North Kern area. And there is a section in there for Shafter that you'll be wanting to go through on this. We go through a continuous update process as well as public outreach process on this regional transportation plan. Over the past 4 years, we've now garnered input from about 7,000 people within the Kern region, including quite a bit of input from Shafter. We worked closely with staff recently on a local roads safety plan, and that's being released this month as well, and we've incorporated some of that information in here. Other than that, the document is quite a bit similar to the way it was 4 years ago. One of the most notable things is in our action element of the plan, the first area that we work on or talk about is freight and goods movement. And you guys are all very well aware that we lead with the discussion of Shafter and the inland port. And the plan looks at that Shafter inland port as sort of a hub for goods movement within the region, because when you can ship by rail, it's 10 times more energy efficient and 7 times less polluting than shipping by truck. And so if there's a way we can improve the ability of our region to ship more by rail, there's a lot of potential benefits there for the region. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions related to this, but it's a public hearing. And so if you guys be willing to open the public hearing, we'd be very interested in hearing what the folks have to say.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for anyone who cares to address the council for or against, or any questions you have, may come forward, state your name and address. Or we can have it at Kern Cog on Thursday night. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And we have no action at this time other than opening and closing the hearing, so.
Yeah, appreciate your time. Just also to let those people who might be watching online, this document is available on Kern Cog's website, both the regional transportation plan and the associated documents, such as the environmental document at www.kerncog.org/2020-RTP. And you can go out there and view them. And we're taking comments, written comments, verbal comments at the public hearing on Thursday night at Kern Cog, and written comments through June 16th. And so you can provide all kinds of comments up to that point.
Right.
City manager, is there a way to put a link to that website on our website?
Certainly, Rob, you send that to us. We can put that on.
Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to management reports. The first item is the fiscal year 2022-2023 capital improvement program and fleet and equipment capital outlay requests budget workshop number 3.
Certainly, Mayor and Council, while our finance director is making it to the podium, this is a continuation of our budget. This evening, we'll be covering our CIP program. You'll see some familiar projects on here. We also have some introducing some new proposed projects that we're bringing forward to you to have you consider for us to include in our final budget. But this is all for discussion. If you need additional information, you can always bring that back for additional information. And then also too, we'll be covering the fleet and equipment program as well, both between Public Works and then general fund. And again, it's broken down in two categories, what's replacement and then any new proposed purchases that we're asking you to consider for the upcoming 22-23 fiscal year. A little bit of background is that these items that are being proposed as new have been vetted by me with the director. So you're only seeing what we feel is pertinent to maintain operational efficiency and effectiveness in order to be able to deliver those services effectively to the community. And so it's not inclusive of everything that was submitted by our directors, but it's been vetted. And so what you're seeing is the final product. Mike will be covering his portion and then I'll cover the general fund and Roger will kick it off for now. So Roger.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. So as city manager has mentioned, this is the third workshop. In early April, we discussed about revenue projections. Second meeting was about a summary on labor cost and M&O. This is about capital request, including fleet, equipment, and CAP as well. So next meeting, which will be next week, it'll be the department directors, department heads will be presenting each sections. It'll be a longer meeting. My hope is that you'll have good information on tonight with the breakdown of the different projects, a breakdown by fund and the impact on the general fund as well. What are the new requests? What are the existing projects as well? So we'll provide that. So keep in mind that the CAP is a multiple years, so some of them are repeated from last year. They haven't been completed, and also they will continue for subsequent years as well. So what we're estimating to be the total proposed capital project is $29.3 million. And from that, about 5% is related to fleet and equipment, or about 1.4 million. And the CAP is 27.9 million. We will also provide a breakdown of what is grants funded versus others, so that you can have a view of what is the impact for the general fund. So as you can see on the chart, the yellow is the CAP and the fleet represents the 5% as it relates to fleet and equipment. This is an overview, a breakdown of the CAP citywide. So the previous slide was fleet and CAP. This one is solely focused on CAP. And as you can see, it has a breakdown of 27.9 million with about 45% related to general fund. And we will show you how much of that is funded by grants versus general fund in a few minutes. We have the streets at 30%, the wastewater at 4%, and the water at 21%. So with that, I'm going to pass some time to Public Works Director, Mike James.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the Chapter City Council. Although not all the CIP projects are going to be managed by Public Works, the department should have at least some role in implementing the projects. So as director, I'm going to focus on tonight water and wastewater, but if there's any questions pertaining to the general fund projects, you can feel free to ask me. It's important to point out that the monetary amounts listed in here don't necessarily suggest what we expect to be fully expended this upcoming fiscal year, but it's just the value of the projects that we expect to be underway. Moving on to, or starting with the water CIP, the plan is to first and foremost continue the routine well and take maintenance projects as needed, upgrade our water SCADA system, which is a recurring project, to which this SCADA system basically allows our crews to remotely monitor and make adjustments to the water system operation. And then in addition to SCADA upgrades, we're planning replacing water meters and water mains, fire hydrants, things like that on an as-needed basis to be as proactive as possible with the operation of the water system. And then moving on to new facilities and projects that you may not have seen before. For starting off with well 21, that is actually a newly developed well, a newly drilled well across the street from Ross at the wonderful industrial park. We hope to connect that to the water distribution system as early as this fiscal year to utilize that well. So it'll be a dedicated water source for the WIP. Well 22 is what we're referring to. Well 22 has yet to be drilled, but we do have adequate space immediately south of the proposed North Shafter Park site to drill a new well. And we this past fiscal year, I believe we did a test well to analyze the water quality and the capabilities to use that ultimately as a full production well. So we got a clean bill of health when it comes to the water quality. So we're planning to come forward with the plans to drill a full production well immediately south of where the new park is supposed to go. And some of the council members, I believe, are familiar with the federal EDA grant process. The two council members participated in a comprehensive economic development strategy committee with the intent of pursuing EDA funds. The EDA has received an application from the city and the proposal on the table is to develop a second water storage tank and booster pumping facility at the WIP to help keep up with the rapid growth in that area. And then finally, with the help of ARPA funding assistance, we really plan to accelerate the installation of new water meters where there are currently no existing water meters. And this would pretty much be where the alleyways, our older connections that don't have existing water meters. So this current fiscal year, we authorized the installation of up to 650 water meters. The ARPA funding allocation should get us to at least 1,000, but I say should because the supplies and materials have been hard to come by, and it's really delayed the current project that's being that was awarded to a contractor. Moving on, I can do this from here. Moving on to the wastewater CIP, it's just a continuation of proactive maintenance. We'll continue our practice of coating the interiors of manholes. We plan to do the Southeast Shafter Sewer project is actually completed. That's the project that extended sewer along 7th Standard Road as far east as Gossamer Grove. We have a proposed funding in this particular project to fulfill a condition of a grant that was issued by Target to construct the pipeline along their frontage. In lieu of charging the city for the easement space that we're using, the city agreed to redo the landscaping along the 7th Standard corridor with more of a drought tolerant look and to replace what had been a grass strip along that corridor. So the allocation in the Southeast Shafter project line item is going to enable it to fulfill that landscaping requirement. So beyond that, we're basically proposing, again, routine, reoccurring operation and maintenance projects. Lift stations, as you may know, we have a stake in the wastewater treatment plant. Even though we don't operate it, we own a third of the treatment plant capacity and the operation there. And periodically, North River Sanitary District will develop and implement the maintenance projects and expansion projects, and we have to be prepared to fund our share of those projects. So, and then again, similar to the water system, we have a SCADA system that ensures that we can remotely monitor the performance of mostly the sewer lift stations and make sure they're performing properly. So with that, unless you have any questions pertaining to water and wastewater, I believe the city manager is going to. Mayor Pro Tem?
I don't know if I raised my hand or how you want me to do that. You mentioned a comment about ARPA money. So on the water fund itself, what is the breakdown between general fund payment, water fund payment, the EDA grant, and the ARPA out of that $5.9 million?
Sorry, let me back up.
It's one of them.
Probably not using the right.
You're going the wrong way.
Good night.
That was a quick presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now I go forward.
There you go, page 4.
That one.
The ARPA 1.3 million is the, I'm not pushing anything. The water meter new installations is ARPA, fully ARPA.
Including the one above, water meter retrofits.
That is water CIP funds.
Okay. So the only ARPA out of that 5.9 is the 1.3.
Correct.
And then the 80% of that 2.5 top of the head is what? $2 million?
Correct.
Okay. And any of this going general fund, or is it everything else is water fund?
No general fund.
No general fund. Thank you. Same question then would be for sewer. No ARPA for sewer?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Some of those come from enterprise, don't they?
Yeah, the CIP.
Yeah.
Correct.
Any other questions? Staff? Did you have some more, or is it back to Roger?
Well, this is also your portion, Mike,
Okay, I heard general. Okay, so we're moving on to streets.
the streets.
Sorry. Okay, so similar to the water and wastewater enterprises, the streets division is going to see reoccurring maintenance work when it comes to striping, curb gutter, sidewalk replacement, pavement sealing. As far as projects go, we're familiar with the well, on your agenda tonight, I believe, was a program supplement to proceed with the shoulder project at Santa Fe Way. That's going to provide, provide 8-foot paved shoulders on Santa Fe Way between Los Angeles and Galpin. That's federally funded. 1.3 million of that, I believe, is the federal share of that. And we're all familiar with the roundabout project. We get frequent questions about the status of the roundabout project. We've actually had a conference call with Caltrans staff yesterday. They're actually ready to proceed, or will be ready to proceed fairly soon with the right-of-way acquisition that's necessary for that project this fiscal year. So in addition to the 1.5 million for the preliminary engineering, we've requested an additional 1.5 million to as a placeholder for the right-of-way. Ultimately, that right-of-way will have to be appraised. But just as a reminder, the arrangement we have with Caltrans on this project is that the city will take the lead on the funding for the design and the right-of-way, and Caltrans will assume full responsibility for the construction. And we saw public comment, we heard a public comment, I should say, about the state of North Park, North Shafter road improvements. As you may recall, this current fiscal year, the council did authorize the installation of mast arms on the power poles that are throughout the North Shafter and North Park communities as an interim measure of providing street lighting until we could master plan this like city standard streets in that community. We recently wrapped up a topography study to assist our engineers with the design of streets. The next phase, as we see it, is to proceed with the feasibility study to look at the drainage component and the additional right-of-way needs to properly design a street network in those communities. And we have a placeholder in here for that. And I will also say that we have met with Caltrans staff and literally walked the 43 corridor last month to kind of highlight some of the challenges that we're seeing when it comes to vehicular traffic as well as pedestrian traffic. So we're maintaining communication with Caltrans there. So another reoccurring project is it's labeled as Zerker Road sealing, but this will be actually Zerker Road reconstruction. It's a multi-phased project that on Zerker Road between Laredale Highway and 7 Standard Road. So generally speaking, we'll try to, as funding allows, complete a segment every fiscal year. So we actually have federal RSTP funding to continue that momentum on Zerker Road. And you'll likely see a request to go out to bid with that project as early as the next phase of that project, as early as this summer. With respect to new projects that are not recurring but haven't been brought to you previously, 7 Standard Road, another multi-phase project is 7 Standard Road. We completed the first phase of that project in front of Gossamer Grove using city road funds. We're hoping to have a federal RSTP allocation to put into use as early as next year to continue moving west, because the Shafter side of 7 Standard Road is the westbound traffic. We're going to continue west with the roadway reconstruction on 7 Standard Road. Our proposed SB1 project will be Laredale Highway and to be a reconstruction of Laredale Highway, to be exact, to occur between Valley Street and Shafter Avenue. And then as we're accustomed to seeing, we have an annual residential project, and which we propose to be Pozo Avenue west of the railroad tracks and East Euclid Avenue. And I believe East Euclid was actually on the consent to go out to bid. So those are our residential projects. So combined reoccurring projects that have been previously awarded or reoccurring, with new projects, we're looking at a $10 million CIP for street work. And again, that's not necessarily what we plan to have fully expended, but that's the value of the projects that we hope to have programmed in the CIP.
Any questions? Ambitious plan, huh?
All right, Mayor and Council, I'm going to be covering the general fund CIP. On here are a list of projects. If you want me to go through them, I'll just highlight what's already been previously discussed with you. For one is the City Hall projects. This includes the improvements that we've talked about. We got the re-roofing of City Hall. We've talked about windows. Apparently there was a $300,000 that's been set aside in prior years. So this is a carryover from before. In the meantime, I know that we are going out to put together a bid package for re-roofing City Hall. We've also talked about removing the trailer where planning is presently housed. And so that's what this represents. There's also been, over the years, approximately $100,000 set aside for citywide ADA public facility improvements. We have the Shafter Aquatic Center restoration. This is $400,000 in general fund. And then we got the California Clean grant in the amount of 2.2 for that. ARPA funding includes the Mano Park irrigation improvements, the Veterans Park soccer field lighting, and then as well as the Veterans Park site basketball courts and the Christmas Park field operations. That's 100% of the ARPA monies, leaving us the core city recreation improvements in the amount of $400,000, carryover from fiscal year 22, the Prop 68 Mano Park grant in the amount of $300,000, widening of 7 Standard Road, Santa Fe to I-5, another $300,000. And then that's what is currently in our list of projects. Proposed new, we last year, as part of future needs, Chief Zimmerman brought to your attention that he eventually will like to start providing and have a stronger presence out there at Gossamer Grove in terms of being able to put perhaps a temporary police station, substation, that we would be able to house an officer out there to have a more presence with PD. Currently, we do have, based on the patrols, they do have presence out there, but it's not a dedicated presence. In other words, it's part of the patrols. They do send an officer out there on a shift to patrol and do some other activities, but it's not a dedicated. It's part from someone that is on one of the teams patrolling the core. They spend some time out there. This would allow us to
and you'll see as part of the budget request next week is that we're going to be asking you for one additional officer that would be able to fill that role. So this is about moving some ARPA monies. We had previously requested about 100,000 from ARPA monies to be able to put a training classroom at the shooting range. However, as we looked into it and did additional research, we found that it was going to be more costly than the 100,000 when you take into account any on-site improvements, drainage, sewer, water connectivity, and then having to build a permanent foundation for the trailer. And then they found that the cost for a double wide trailer was far more than $100,000. So in talking with Chief Zimmerman, we felt that perhaps that was not the best use of those ARPA monies. And then also too, if you recall in the ARPA presentation that we made regarding the allocation, we set aside about $250,000 that was earmarked for, at the time, what would have been COVID mandatory testing. If you recall, there was a proposal from the federal government about employers with 100 more employees. For any employee that was not vaccinated, was going to have to do weekly testing. And so we had budgeted about $250,000 from that ARPA line. That subsequently went to court and it was shot down. And so employers were not having to do that mandatory testing. And so that 250 became available. So what we're proposing is to move that 250,000 that was earmarked for that testing towards the temporary substation. We're talking possibly just a single wide trailer out there. And so the 250, and then we're taking about the 50,000 from the 100,000 from the classroom, because the shooting range still needs some improvements. So we're looking to proposing to leave 50,000 of the 100,000 earmarked for the shooting station, for the shooting range, and reduce that by 50,000 and apply it to the 250, bringing the total to 300,000. So this is a new item. Next week at our department presentation to you, Chief Zimmerman can provide additional information in terms of the need. I know he shared with me in our discussions, they're probably seeing about 700 calls for service out there on Gossamer Grove. I know that some of you have received calls about speeding and other incidents like that taking place. And there's a request on the residents out there for more dedicated police presence. But Chief Zimmerman next week can provide additional information as part of that. The other item is approximately 100,000 from general fund, and that is to make some office improvements at the Learning Center. As you recall, we've made certain improvements with the GAF project, and then also we've established our own municipal library. And so we'd like to move the director and the manager to be on site at the Learning Center. Presently, they're housed behind City Hall at the annex with IT, and we feel that it's better suited for them to be at the Learning Center library. But the storage room that's there now would need to be retrofit, make some tenant improvements to build a couple offices, because right now it's just an open space. And so we estimate about 100,000 will cover that. With that, it would allow us to shift some personnel here at City Hall in the offices that they would be vacating. And then eventually the goal is to remove the trailer and also relocate HR and planning elsewhere so we can get rid of that trailer. So that's 100,000. New doors at Veterans Hall and City Hall to comply with the ADA. This is not grant, right? Because you have it in grant.
That's not grant.
Yeah, no. So we're asking for 100,000. We had talked about this, that we know that we're out of compliance for ADA purposes with our doors, both here at City Hall and at the Veterans Hall. They're still the old school vintage doors, push handles now. They have to be automated doors, push button, they open by themselves. And so we're proposing to go ahead and retrofit those once and for all, both here at City Hall and at the Veterans Hall, which is the most commonly used public facilities that we have. We particularly rent out the Veterans Hall, so I'm surprised that no one's raised that issue. We do have the handicap ramp, but the doors are not compliant with ADA. So that's 100,000 for that. As you know, the animal shelter parking lot and the frontage is in dire need. The
The mayor and I have been out there, Mike and I have been out there. We've met with the animal control manager, and we have a private citizen that's willing to make a monetary contribution to some improvements out there. And so we came up with a site plan to increase the existing parking and maybe do some frontage improvements in what that little horseshoe is, that dirt hole that's right in front of it. And so for that, we're proposing 100,000. Now, something to consider here in talking, and I've had an opportunity to tour the animal control shelters. There may be other improvements that are probably better suited for the interior of the animal shelter. So, you know, we're open to getting input from you in terms of what you think is probably the best use of any monies that we do appropriate. Do you want to see adding additional parking spaces or doing the improvements on the frontage to make the aesthetics more appealing? Or are we perhaps looking to do improvements within the facility, because we know that our animal control our animal shelter is seeing an increase with animal activity in terms of drop-offs, adoptions, their spay and neuter that they host. Now they're doing the food giveaway, the pet food giveaway. So they're seeing a lot more traffic out there. But it's open for discussion. This was from a previous discussion we had with the private citizen wanting to make the contribution in terms of what they wanted to see their money go to. But we as a city staff would want to have a conversation with you to see if you still feel that that's the best use of those monies. Okay. And so that represents what we're proposing from the general fund CIP. It totals approximately $1.8 million. And then the grant funding is 10.9 and the total is 12.6. Any questions on any of that? Okay. This is Citywide Fleet. I just like to state that one of the things, this is our vehicles. So on the top portion, you have what we call a new fleet request. And then below that, with the exception of the 3/4 ton, all of those other vehicles and heavy equipment is replacement. One of the things in talking with Public Works is for them to develop, similar to what PD has, is a vehicle replacement policy so that we can get on schedule and know how often, maybe on a budgetary cycle, be replacing our Public Works vehicles. So that way we're not waiting in one particular budget year to do multiple purchases of new fleet vehicles. And if you recall, by way of background, PD every 2 years replaces 2 of their vehicles. So the intent here is for Public Works to collaborate with PD and maybe model a similar policy so that Public Works can get on the similar rotation, and every 2 years or however many, how often the frequency is, they like to replace those vehicles, a set number per budget cycle. Okay. So here what we have under new, if the staff, if the new officers approved, would be obviously they need a vehicle for them to be able to patrol out there at Gossamer Grove. Also a 3/4 utility truck, and we'll talk more about that next Tuesday as part of the additional request from Public Works would be for one additional street person, staff, and then Public Works 3/4 ton, Public Facilities. We recently lost our public facilities person, Marshall. He left for family reasons, employment with the city, so we need to backfill that. And so we're looking to replace the vehicle for that. As part of the rotation for replacement of patrols, we're looking to replace 2 vehicles. We have a 1/2 ton with a 3/4 ton truck in Public Facilities, 1/2 ton truck with 3/4 ton. These are actually 3/4 tons, right, Mike? Correct. So yeah, we're replacing the 1/2 ton with 3/4 tons. We believe that 3/4 tons would be more, could be better utilized. The 1/2 tons have limitations in terms of towing capacity, and the 3/4 tons would give us just a little bit more of that towing capacity with the equipment that we have. And this way we're not dedicated, which we're not constrained to just 1 or 2 3/4 ton trucks to tow certain equipment around. If all of our fleet goes to 3/4 ton, then we have that flexibility to be able to use whatever truck to move some of our equipment. The other is a bucket truck, the bucket truck. This is a split between streets of 75%, public facilities 25 for 100,000. Replacement of the water truck, that's 50,000. So the replacement brings us to 410,000. A new 3/4 utility truck. Again, next week, you'll hear from our Public Works Director. We're proposing some additional staff in the utilities division. We are growing. We're seeing a lot more activity with every new house that's built, more water meters, more sewer line. And then also to replacing a water truck and replacing another 1/2-ton truck with 3/4 ton truck, bringing the total of just on the replacement, 115,000 and then 65,000 for the 1 3/4 ton. Any questions so far?
I have a couple. I guess I'm mesmerized by how you can replace a water truck for only $50,000. Is this a legitimate water truck or is this, that seems
It's
super
spread out.
low?
Correct me if I'm wrong,
So-
Roger. It's
So the breakdown, if you notice, the water truck, it's on multiple line items.
So,
There's-
okay,
there's
water
the
truck under
streets.
streets for 50
Yeah, so
and
it's
then
how it's
water truck
allocated
under
into
water
different funds.
wastewater.
Yeah.
So it'll be a 50, 25, 25 breakdown. Am I
Yes.
seeing that? Still $100,000 is a killer deal, if you can find that. Also, what are we doing with the vehicles at the old MCCF?
those that have been reassigned, those
Okay.
that were in working condition, not all of them were in good working order, but those were reassigned. PD took
There's a couple Crown Vics, yeah.
took some of the vehicles. We brought over one of the little smaller SUVs as part of the fleet here. And Mike, did you take 1 or 2 vehicles?
I don't believe we did.
Okay, but the vehicles that were still in good operation, we reassigned to other departments, and then those that were not, we're gonna look to surplus those.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. The Learning Center took one of the vans to transport. Yeah.
Any other questions?
So to clarify, city manager, on the previous slide, the public facilities, Mike, is that correct? That's meant for the public facilities, the parks and,
Towing.
yeah, the towing, and that's why it was a 3/4 tons as opposed to facilities maintenance. It's
Thank you
public
for that
facilities. It just,
Yeah.
And
I
that's
thi- I
why
think that's the
that's
why-
why it's listed as new.
right.
Yeah, the 3/4 ton makes sense. The water truck makes sense. I don't know how you're gonna get a water truck for $100,000. And again, if you can do it, you probably should buy 2 at that point because they're not gonna be that cheap.
No. And the one for I'll discuss right now some of the equipment. This was fleet, but on the equipment side, you'll see that in order for us to move forward with the 3/4 ton for public facilities is contingent to us being able to buy some more equipment.
What is any of this being sold? Are we selling any of this equipment? For instance, the 1/2-ton truck with 3/4 being replaced with a 3/4 ton. So we say $65,000. It makes sense for a 3/4 ton if you're doing a utility bed. Are we selling a 1/2-ton truck and then seeing the difference between the two?
So typically what we do is we declare it surplus. So this case, once, they're pretty much at the end, not pretty much, they are at the end of their life. So we'll bring it forward,
Okay.
declare it surplus, and then in the past, my understanding is we'll send it off to auction. And that's how we sell them typically.
Not a lot there. Okay,
No.
No.
thank you.
By the time we get rid of them, they've been run down, Okay, so this is more equipment citywide. This is new. The 2 items is a Bobcat grinder and a paint machine. The paint machine is approximately 25,000. The Bobcat grinder is 125. The Bobcat grinders for streets, Mike,
Correct.
correct?
Here, let me ask you something about that paint machine. This is to do graffiti work?
No, this is roadway
Striping.
striping.
Oh, okay, that's all right.
No.
Yeah,
Our machine's old and a newer machine would be more efficient in terms of how much more of a street our crews are able to do, going to a newer machine, better capacity on it and so forth. So that's what we're proposing.
so we're just looking for something. It won't be a brand new truck then.
Brand new truck.
Mhm.
It's
Machine.
a machine. I think Mike, you probably know how to
explain how they operate it.
Technically, they're referred to as, or the jargon is buggies. They look like more like lawnmowers, and they the paint comes out the back end, and they mostly paint crosswalks, things like that.
So are we looking for a brand new one? I mean, if it's not going to cover that cost, then we're looking for something that maybe isn't brand new.
No, the paint machine is new, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's the estimate they came up with was 25,000 for the paint machine.
We'll see how you can shop.
No. I think our staff's learned to be very
know they
very
have.
conscientious,
I know
wise, and
they
very
have.
frugal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have.
Replacement equipment, we have some MDCs that need to be replaced for our police vehicles. Audio recorder, this is replacing the existing recorder. We have a forklift that needs to be replaced, as well as a skip loader to replace the street tractors. And then in public facilities is equipment trailer and a new parks mower. This new mower has, from what I understand from public works staff, is got longer reach in terms of being able to go out there. So what we are talking about here is more efficiency, in that our one parks guy, whoever's driving it, will be able to do more of an area than our current mower. So instead of doing a couple parks, in a couple, half a day or whatever the case may be, now to be able to maybe do 3 parks in that same amount of time because it's got wider reach. So it increases efficiency. However, the trailer, the mower, and the 3/4 ton truck for public facilities is one package. Because we don't have a dedicated truck right now for that trailer or that mower. The mower needs a bigger trailer than what we have right now because the existing trailers aren't that big enough to carry the new mower. And so they would all go hand in hand in order to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
approve this, it would have to be the 3 items, not one for them. So
Big mower.
what's that?
Is it?
As you can see, public works is on their own.
That's a big mower. Is the forklift and the mower, any of that going electric?
No. There's leads on electric, but not promising ones.
I wouldn't imagine a 92-inch mower being electric.
Yeah, no.
A reliable one.
It's a lot of batteries. But I was just kind of curious if that's something that you guys were looking at or not.
Anyway, there's leads, but we want credible ones. We're going to put them into work.
Well, even the electric buses have a tough time out there, don't they?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, technology is still evolving. It's not been perfected
Yeah.
yet.
But now, as far as the mower goes, now would be the time to be able to purchase that, because I think there's limitations on
Correct.
when we're going to be allowed to purchase gas any longer, or whatever this is running off of.
Mhm. So then the breakdown, then we have the forklift that is being split between water, wastewater, vehicle maintenance, public facilities in the amount of 80,000. So combined with the 20,000 in streets, that brings us to about 100,000. And then IT has 3 items as we continue to improve our infrastructure to provide the city services. We have Johnny in the audience. He can provide. I'm not going to pretend that I know the technical aspects of each of these items, nor am I going to attempt that. But we have here replacement of some switches, improvements to our Teltech alarm access installs, and then our PD data center, some improvements. Each of those respectively is 28,000, 12,000, 11,000. And so the total for equipment is 616. Now, let me point out that the highlighted sections here that you see, the 150, the 255, the 80,000, and then on the fleet, with the new being 195, and then replacement in the 410. We're in our staff report, we mentioned that Roger, our finance director, is still rolling up our year-end revenue projections and how we're going to land with revenues to expenditures. We're still reconciling current CIP projects and what's going to be encumbered through the end of the fiscal year, and then what's going to get carried over. Preliminary, very preliminary, we believe that
we're of the opinion that there's going to be a fund balance like we've experienced in prior years, meaning a surplus in our budget. Now, council in the past, you've had different discussions on how you appropriate that fund balance from the budget. Part of the monies that are appropriate, as Roger can explain in more detail, is a set aside for the tax issue we have with the state. And as part of the audit, the auditors make us do a journal entry to move some monies from that fund balance into that liability. It's booked as a future liability because should that matter come to conclusion and it goes against the city, we foreseeably would have to pay back that money. So that is part of the audit, that there's a journal entry in which we're moving monies from that fund balance into that fund. It's dedicated, it's assigned. So in the event that our surplus was not sufficient to cover the 2.8, something for council to consider, and this is what I was talking about, particularly with public works, about putting them on a rotation, on a cycle to replace the vehicles. You're seeing quite a number of vehicles, equipment that we've deferred for much too long, to the point that at some point we have to replace them. And that's what we're having to deal with today, right? They're one-time purchases, they're not reoccurring. But as like I said, Public Works is going to be developing a vehicle replacement policy, of equipment replacement policy, so that we get ourselves on a schedule. Okay, so in the future, you're not going to see a group of pieces of equipment and trucks coming to you asking for approval for those. So something to consider would be, in the event our fund balance is not sufficient to cover the 2.8, would be to draw down from reserves. I can tell you I'm the first as a city manager that would never recommend to our city council to draw down from reserves, but reserves are there for a reason. And in some instances, it's for rainy days like this, that we do have a need to replace vehicles. We do have a need for replacing equipment to make our crews more efficient in the manner in which we do our job, the manner in which we deliver those services. And again, this is kind of what happens when we defer for much too long. And so that's one consideration. Okay. But we won't know what that actual fund balance looks like until Roger rolls up the final numbers for the 22-23 budget and runs year-end projections after he reconciles our current CIP with our expenditures to budget. We'll have a better idea on how we can pay for those. But I thought it was worth mentioning. We did put that in the report, on our staff report. But like I said, that's what happens when cities, because we're not unique in that respect, to defer the purchase or replacement of equipment and vehicles. But that's kind of where we're at. If we don't purchase them, then we're basically going to be maintaining older pieces of equipment like our trucks, right? We're going to be in the shop more, dealing with more breakdowns. Our equipment is not as efficient, using the mower as an example. Our guys are still going to be able to mow their lawns, right? But not as efficient as we could be, right? We will still be striping, doing painting out there, but not as efficient, right? So we're looking to also increase that efficiency factor for our crews out there doing the job. So what you have here is the impact. The CIP is 1.8 million, fleet is 400,000, equipment 600,000, bringing the total 2.8. So in summary here, total proposed between fleet and equipment, the breakdown for fleet is 800,000, making up 56%. Equipment is 600,000, making up 44%, for a total proposed of 1.4 million. So.
Couple comments. I am not a fan of talking about reserves and going down that road. I don't think it's wise to be even putting us in a position to touch reserves for this, albeit I understand the cost of maintenance and the cost of new equipment. I would question some of this equipment and the price. I mean, $100,000 for a forklift. I'm presuming it must be a fairly large grade all, but I don't know what is actually showing here. $30,000 for an equipment trailer also seems really high. So there's some things that I look at saying, I know that we're probably overshooting ourselves on the estimate just to make sure we're covered. I just think this is still a very, very high estimate. I don't want to touch the reserves. And knowing where we're at, we actually just got done having this conversation in the back, knowing where we're at with the feds continuing to raise interest rates. I do believe that we're going to see a recession in it. I've been saying that for a while. I'm still going to stand on that. And if that's the case, and things start to plummet or drop, or if the interest rates continue to climb, people are not going to be buying as much as they're buying now. And that hurts us in the long run because our sales tax revenue is going to start declining because people aren't going to be building or buying. And in the end, that hurts our general fund. And I want to make sure that we do have that reserve available for us. So again, I'm the only one speaking on this. I'm only one person, but I don't feel comfortable talking about going to the reserves, especially in the state of the nation as we speak.
I too am not in favor of using reserves. I think that I like the plan of putting it in like we're doing with the police vehicles, where we're going to start rotating them in. But I too am a little cautious right now, and I want to be a little conservative going into what we're going into, because I mean, you can't turn the radio on and hear anything good anymore. And I think that at that point right there, when you start scaring the people and they stop doing the things that they're doing, you know, we could see a major decline on income. But I do like the plan. I like the plan, just like, you know, we figured out with the police cars, you know, we need to get caught up. We figured out with our pay scale, we need to get caught up. So I just want to take a little bit more conservative approach.
You know, just to clarify, we have always included police cars new every year. We've been doing that for a long time already. We're adding some because of Gossamer Grove, as well as the fact that we had a couple of them that were damaged. You know, we've had to replace, but we've had it in the program before. Yeah. So the dream is good. I mean, I don't see anything bad about dreaming and putting all of this equipment in there, but I just don't think it has to happen all at one time. And I think everybody knows that I'm pretty conservative as far as spending money, and I think the reserves could be even higher. I don't want to see us taking any money out of reserves. It just isn't the wisest thing in my estimation. So maybe you have to have some priorities as 1, 2, 3. We've slowly been able to help out in a lot of the areas around the city, and we have almost a vehicle for everybody employee, and you know what? We need to kind of watch that too. Price of gas is just going out of sight too. So yeah, we can be more conservative and yet still have some nice equipment. So any other comments?
Madam Mayor and
Yes,
council member, just for point of clarification for my benefit, do I understand that if there's a balanced budget for the next fiscal year that we estimate, that you would be supportive of those additions that have been presented? It's only if there's a deficit that you're want to avoid the reserves. Am I understanding correctly?
Avoid the reserves, but you know what? During the year, there's always other things that come up that we have to put funds in. And so I've never seen us be immune to the fact that we've had to pull out of reserves even then because of needs that are there. But this is pretty aggressive. And I know efficiency is good, but we can be efficient in a smaller way, in a shorter way. I think most of us understand that. So, I mean, if you have surplus, I mean, let's keep it for a rainy day. I mean, that doesn't.
I see.
Yeah, I'd like to go up and tell the state how to do their surplus.
Right? 90 billion.
That's right. I've told you what I think about that.
Mayor and Council, following that train of thought from what our finance directors brought up. Appreciate the feedback, and that's why we're having this, it's not a study session, but typically would have been a study session. That's the whole purpose, to get your input and direction. As I said at the beginning in my opening comment, as I personally, as a professional, I'm not a fan of drawing down for reserves. So I stand with you on that. But again, as a city manager and to our staff, I felt necessary to bring these items forward for your consideration. If by prioritizing, circling back with staff and prioritizing, if we can absorb some of this costs in our existing budget without drawing from reserves, from not drawing from any year-end surplus, and we can somehow absorb it out of our existing budget, again, that would mean reprioritizing within each department. And if we're able to absorb some of this cost, are you open to approving some of that? If we go back, do the work. When I say absorb, meaning, for example, Public Works, if their budget's $1 million, if we reduce some line items and we sharpen our pencils and we're able to absorb 2 or 3 trucks within that $1 million that we can have allocated right now, are you open to that? Or are you just at this time just not wanting us to move forward?
The only place that I could see the absorbing is a priority as to what you might buy tomorrow versus what you might have in 6 months. Because if the economy doesn't grow or doesn't improve, doesn't show us much for the future, I don't want to get shortchanged. And I think we should all be very conservative going into it and hope that we can get some extra dollars in the end. And then, by next year, by 8 months, 12 months down the road, then we'll know exactly what we've got and how it's going. But it's pretty risky right now. I mean, I've been through some pretty risky times and we've come out okay, but we've been very, very conservative. And I think we need to really, really watch it.
Okay.
There's a balance to everything. I think
That's right.
there's if you get to a point where you don't want to have a museum at your public work either, and people get hurt, or you spend double the amount just trying to keep the truck running, or you have employees breaking down, or employees can't do their job. You can only buy so much duct tape and paintbrushes. So,
Well, you see what it's been like too. I mean, councils had to deal with salaries and you know what's happening all over. I mean, our citizens everywhere are struggling. It isn't just public service.
but
mean,
I
it's
think you
tough.
just gotta see what we really need, and maybe, like you said, there's a balanced budget, and there's extra money in the budget, or somehow you find extra money or something like that, or whatever the case may be. And we need some equipment. I think it's safe. I think in the long run it will pay off, or else we're gonna start seeing, like I've heard already, we have our police cars, some of our police cars out there. The logos are coming off. People are saying, well, look how, Chapter talking about being pride, and look at the vehicles, look how they look out there. But they don't understand the whole picture. But you want to still, again, you don't want no one getting hurt, or you don't want them breaking down. You want them to be able to do their job and do it in a way that they could do it quick and fast, and not have to wait for, a long time, or we don't have the equipment, or just contract everything out. So, but again, I think it's just trying to see, we're waiting till Roger balances out our budget, and then we could look at this again and see what the items that we really need, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you all.
That's it.
That's it. With that, that concludes our presentation. So thank you, council, for the feedback. And that's why we have these workshops. So thank you. And that concludes our presentation regarding this item.
Okay, that was management reports.
There's no.
And we now have city manager comments and reports.
Shelley, Mayor and Council, these are just more announcements of upcoming events. This Thursday, we have the Water Summit. So those of you that are attending, it's an all-day event. I think check-in and breakfast is at 6:30, begins at 6:30, and then the actual summit is at 7:30 and goes through better part of the day, I think, till about 3:30 or so. We have the Citizens Charter Advisory Committee for those of you that have been attending or those that want to attend next Monday, the 23rd at 5 p.m. We do Zoom. We do have streaming, so if you want to just participate by Zoom, let us know. We'll send you the link, or if you really want to join us, our council chambers are open, and this one, we're going to be getting more into the other articles of the charter. And so there'll be some good information as the committee becomes more engaged moving forward. We do have a special city council meeting. Again, it's a budget workshop number 4, which the department directors will be presenting their departmental budget. as well as any new additional requests and as well as future needs. That's a new item that we started last year. Those are not new items we're asking for you to approve. It's just whatever each department director feels. It's just in the horizon forecasting to kind of bring to your attention of what some of the things that they're seeing change in the way they do things. And then May 28th, annual Memorial Day ceremony. We can believe it. We're already coming up on Memorial Day. And so Bakersfield National Cemetery, Saturday, May 28th at 9 a.m. They'll be having their Memorial Day, annual Memorial Day ceremony. And then now that what I like to say, we're post-pandemic. Our chief is going to be hosting a coffee with a cop Saturday, June 4th, 7:30 to 9 a.m. at Flight Park out there at Gossamer Grove. So again, we're starting to make a little bit more presence out there. And then lastly, June 7th, City Council meeting is the Prop 218 public hearing, protest hearing for rate increases. This is not a protest hearing about the service. It's not about the manner of going to curbside. This is a requirement pursuant to Proposition 218 that anytime a city's looking to increase the rates, they hold what we would refer to as a protest hearing, meaning any property owner that is against the rate increase, it's an opportunity for them to say, we don't like the rate increase. We're protesting against the rate increase. So that I wanted to make that distinction that it's not about the curbside service or any changes to the service itself. If anybody wants to protest that, they can submit an email separate and apart from this hearing. This public hearing is solely for the rate increase that's being proposed as part of that. And that's on schedule for June 7th. So we'll be noticing that. Public notices have gone out and so forth, and that'll be here at City Hall. And with that, that concludes my updates. And I know I have Mike who has a couple items he wants to give you an update.
I have a question. Is there any plan yet as to when this goes into effect? The
July
rate
1st.
increase. Yeah.
Pardon me?
July 1st.
July 1st, it's going to be ready? Okay.
Well, actually, as of today, we found out that Cal Recycle approved staff's transition plan for the rollout of the 3-cart service. The first phase of the plan is going to consist of distributing the 3-cart to existing street customers, curbside customers during the entire month of July. And then the logistics involved with the conversion from alley service to curbside service that's proposed. We're proposing a 6 to 9 month transition through March of next year. I think American Refuse is prepared to do approximately 200 conversions a month. And that was the game plan. And that's what we proposed to Cal Recycle. And just today, we got confirmation that they're willing to let us proceed with that transition plan. But the rollout will, provided June 7th, the hearing and the council action proposed proceeds as planned. The rollout will start July 1st, and the customers will be notified by American Refuse in advance of when to expect their 3 carts.
And you said the 3 carts then would go 200 per month?
That's what American Refuse is, I believe they proposed.
Okay.
They have something along the order of 2,000 total, but we can come back to you with a more precise plan. And I think they've even mapped this out for us, so we can let people know where they stand in the transition plan as far as the order.
Okay. And we should get that around July the 1st.
Prior to July 1st, you'll get now that we know Cal Recycle is on
Yeah.
board, we can get a little more detailed. But the transition is going to start July 1st at this time. That's the plan.
Gee, we can hardly wait. I keep smiling, huh? No.
Are you getting any more feedback from residents?
We have a few written notices protesting the change on file. And we see people on the street, and I know American does, and we've heard verbally about the concerns and the suggestions about how to move forward. But and the notices went out at least a few weeks ago, and to date, I believe we received like something between 3 and 5 written notices concerning the change.
And the change, the notice is that they're the statements are, I'm assuming, more towards going curbside than the rates. Is that correct?
That's a fair assessment or.
I'm trying to think of the best way to say that.
Mike, do we know when American Refuge is going to set up in the city yard, when they're going to open that office?
It's already there.
They're already making their presence known. They're storing containers there, and we had a walkthrough with them a couple of weeks ago on how to use there's an existing trailer there.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're kind of slowly but surely kind of mobilizing to use it.
That's part of what they wanted to do too, right? Be there to answer questions
Correct.
and concerns and stuff like that. Okay, thank you.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, I came home down to Larry from Shafter Avenue and the gate was open. Didn't look like there was anybody inside. I did call the PD and I don't know what happened.
Okay.
If they went over, they should have gone over and checked and to see, but yeah, it was very weird for me to see it because it's always been locked. I mean, it automatically closed, so, yeah. So it should be closed, right?
Unless American has
Yes, it's-
given access to.
Yeah, it didn't look like anybody
Okay.
was there, so.
Just really quick, Mayor and Council, before I hand off to Mike, with regards to the public comments by Mr. Rodriguez on his questions, I will provide to you an update under separate cover via
Okay.
email in the next few days. So we just want to acknowledge that we'll provide a response and that up to you. And I'll reach out to Mr. Rodriguez as well in response to his questions.
Good. Okay.
Mike?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shafter City Council, just on behalf of Public Works, I have a couple of updates to share. One involves the Stringham Park project. As you may recall, the council authorized the construction of a bus transit bus bay turnout off of James Street. That project has been awarded. The project footprint requires that we remove 2 existing park trees. And so you will see, if you're in that vicinity Thursday, those trees being removed, and that's why they're being removed. Fortunately, with the Clean California grant, that is some of which has been set aside for Stringham, we're going to replenish those trees and probably add additional trees in the future. But I just wanted to make you aware that that isn't the contractor that was awarded the bus bay turnout. That is just Alspa working directly for the city to clear a path for the contractor. And then also the bus shelter that was previously authorized by the council has been ordered. And so we'll have that, more than likely have the contractor doing the turnout, provide the installation for that shelter. And then as a reminder, tomorrow noon will be the annual Public Works Appreciation Luncheon. Staff and council are more than welcome to attend. We'd love to see you. No, we won't be able to relocate those. But that is a good thought. But I think we've learned with the car wash project what worked and what doesn't work. And I think those are two trees that we want to invest that kind of money in the hopes that they would make it or they would sustain somewhere else, because we've relocated 3 or 4 oak trees from the car wash property to the courtyard, and within a month they
Dried up. Yeah, they were dry.
2 quick questions. Not to beat a dead horse, but here we go. Does that mean American will be doing all trash pickup starting July 1st? Or is there going to be a combination of both?
And this will be through what we're on a separate agreement that we're working on. The thought process is that we'd like to, because our equipment, the city equipment has not, we don't think it's sustainable for much longer without major investments and the repair work, to be exact. We're proposing, or we ultimately plan to propose an interim agreement with American where they would be the subcontracted provider, providing the status quo service that the city normally would provide, trash only, until the 3-cart rollout is ready.
Okay. Other question, at Manor Park, I think it was last week, there was a really large portion of that tree that came crashing down. I think it was over the weekend. Do you know why?
I haven't heard about that, so.
It was massive.
Okay.
I'm assuming Parks got it cleaned up and dealt with. I just didn't know if we have a tree that's dying once again, or if it was just foul play of sorts. Just kind of curious on what happened on that one. It looked like a third of the tree that had come down.
Yeah. Okay, I could be happy to follow up on that.
Thank you.
That concludes Public Works comments.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll have a motion to adjourn in closed session and it's 7:34.
Make a motion to adjourn. No, I'm sorry, make a motion to recess.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into closed session. All those in favor say aye.
I'm
Aye, opposed, no. Oh, we are in closed session. Okay, we are back in session and I would like to call upon the city attorney that will give us a report about the public employees' performance evaluation.
Thank you, Mayor. As I mentioned earlier today, the city council recessed into closed session. All members were present except for Council Member Lopez, who was in excused absence. The item on the agenda, as you mentioned, was the public employee performance evaluation for the city manager and city attorney. City council provided direction concerning the performance
Okay, we are
evaluations.
back in session and I would like to call upon the city attorney that will give us a report about the public.
And we have no further reportable action.
All right, we need a motion to
The
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.